In this video, I'm gonna go over how I started, grew, and sold my Amazon FBA book business. And I'm gonna give it from the perspective of a complete beginner. And if you guys want, this is a 3-step system that anyone can replicate to build and sell their Amazon FBA book business. Now, that is very difficult to build a business that is sellable. So I'm gonna tell you what you need to do in order to achieve these results. And I'm just gonna tell you the whole story and also 5 lessons I learned from running this business over the years. So let's dive into the video. So if you wanna build and sell an Amazon FBA book business, or really any Amazon business, or really any business in general, you need to first start the business, then scale the business up to a sizable, profitable amount, and then step back so the business runs in your absence. And that's a business that somebody's gonna wanna purchase. So I always had that intention when I started my entrepreneurial journey. I found out about a year in that the real people making money in this game are building businesses that don't require them. So from day one, even as a thrifter, going into thrift stores and used bookstores, finding books to sell, I knew eventually I wanted to have a business that I could build to the point where maybe I wouldn't sell it. That wasn't like my first intention, but at least I wasn't involved in it. That way I'd have free time to do stuff. And more importantly, I could just scale my business beyond just however much money I could make by myself going into thrift stores. So the startup phase for me, I was just taking massive action. I started living in my car, going across the country, scanning books, and I knew that was not very scalable, but I knew it would make me money, and I also knew it would allow me to travel the country and have a lot of fun and get a feel for the business, which is exactly what it did. I did 80,000 in sales my first year, and then my second year, I went to Greg Murphy's event up in Ohio, and his whole thing was like bust-proof business. Like you have to build a business that is bust-proof. And I met my partner up there, who actually ended up taking over restrictedinventory.com a few years later. I'm jumping ahead here. But basically this guy, I knew he was making a lot of money in the book business, and I just was like asking him every question I could about how he was finding books. And he actually started the same way I did years ago. He was going into McKay's half-price books. He's used bookstores, and he was buying books and selling them. And he got to the point where I think he almost did like $1 million in sales just doing that. But then he grew his business doing 5 million plus. So I knew this guy knew something. And he gave me this book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And if you read that book, I highly recommend it. It just talks about how to build a business and systematize it and basically make the business run in your absence. So here I am, a thrifter, library sale, homeless person living in my car. I actually got an apartment by that time. But dude, I was so broke that I would go down to, what's it called? The Advanced Financial. Is that what it's called? The quick money, hard money, like the most rip-off loans ever. I was too proud to take money from my parents to pay my like $1,300 rent, that I would go down there some weekends because I knew the rent was due on Monday, and I would pull out a loan, and then I ended up having to pay like $200 in interest for like 2 days. It was so stupid. But anyway, that's a side note. He recommended the book, The E-Myth, and I read it, and I'm like, I'm going to find a way to do this. I'm gonna find a way to systematize it. And so I'm still thrifting. I literally got an apartment next to a used bookstore just so I could go in the bookstore every day and scan the books. And there was a storage unit near the used bookstore, so I could process books in the storage unit. I could go to the bookstore and find books. The bookstore paid trade credit for any dud books that I had. So I would literally go around Nashville, pick up free books, take them to my storage unit. There's videos on my YouTube channel. You can go check it. And then I was just delegation mode. And at the time, what I was delegating was I would have a bunch of dud books, and I was kind of forced to delegate this. The used bookstore would only accept 3 bins of dud books at a time. So I would pay people from my parents' neighborhood. I had employees, or actually that's when I hired my first employee to list books for me. So she would come to the storage unit, pick up the books to list on the Amazon. That saved me time. I didn't have to list the books anymore. And then also a bunch of other people would come to the storage unit. I probably had like 10 people come into that storage unit, and they would pick up the dud books, go across the street to McKay's used bookstore, and they would trade in the books for it looked like monopoly money, but it was tax-free trade credit for the bookstore. And we'd get anywhere from $5, $0 to like $180 per transaction. So people would go in there. I just pay them 30%. So if you got $200, I'd pay you $60. So 30% of whatever they got. We had like a key underneath the rock. So people would come, they'd lift up the rock, they'd go in the storage unit, they'd grab the books. That was like the first thing I ever really delegated. And I also delegated listing. And so I kind of had like this business that started to look good. Like, I'm in my apartment and people are going to my storage unit and they're taking books out, they're taking them to McKay's, I'm getting trade credit. I'm able to go into McKay's used bookstore. And eventually I delegated that too. I paid a friend of mine to go into McKay's and scan the books, and I taught him how to use Scout IQ. And then I just paid him a percent of the profit that he found. That was paid out over time on a consignment basis. And then I think I paid him just like whatever he purchased. I think I paid him $12 an hour plus 10% profits. And that made sense at the time. So I delegated that, and then whatever books he brought, my then employee would come pick up the books and take them to her house and list them. And so it not a super lucrative business because a lot of moving parts, but I was trying my best to delegate. And I even paid this, I got scammed one time. I paid $3,000 for dud books. The guy knew they were duds. I should have known that he knew they were duds because he said they were good for Amazon. If you ever see a Craigslist ad that says these books are good for Amazon, they're bad for Amazon. It's a paradox of life. A lot of times when people say one thing, they mean another. And so he brings up $3,000 of dud books, and I paid, shout out Wesley, one of my followers, to go through them with his whole family. So I paid him and his wife like either $10 or $15 an hour. And the whole thing was like a complete loss. I probably lost a few $1,000s. And I took a loan from my mentor at the time, Caleb, to pay for those books. And it took me like a whole year to pay him back after that. So I was trying my hand at a lot of things. I was trying to process bulk books, get books off credit. I was trying to delegate everything I could. If I was doing something and I knew someone else could do it, I would pay them to do it. And it was a good practice to like get used to delegating. But ironically, what ended up taking off was I was always listening to Gary Vee, and Gary Vee was like, you have to post on social media, you have to post on social media, you have to document. And I was listening to Gary Vee back when I was like pre-book days, before I knew about Reezy Resale, pre everything. I'm listening to Gary Vee, and he's like, post. And I was just posting my life. I was just posting funny Snapchats. I was posting, I started posting like a little bit of my pedicab when I worked downtown Nashville. But I knew the opportunity because the way he explained it was like social media is infinitely scalable. And I'm like, okay, like I know this one piece of what I'm doing in business is probably like somewhere along the right path. I don't know if the whole book thing is going to work out. I don't know, but I know this social media piece has that's a key component. So I continue to post on social media. I posted all my journey and really modeled what Reezy Resales and Caleb Roth did because I saw what they built. And I didn't think I could build it, but I did. And I built a following, and people would come to like New York meetups. I did meetups all over the country, Boston, just wherever. I'd say, hey, do you guys want to come hang out? And we'd have like 5-10 people show up. It's fucking crazy. And I say that because I got about 5,000 followers on Instagram. And then one of my friends, we were going on a sourcing trip from Portland, Maine down to Washington, D.C. We made about $14,000 profit. Yeah, we made $7,000 a piece sourcing books. 2 weeks, we found 2,000 books on that trip. And every time he came across a textbook, he was like, this is not good to sell on Amazon. We have to leave it on the shelf. It'd be like a $100 book. And he would leave it on the shelf. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we can sell this. He's like, no, we can't. It's a restricted textbook. And I'm like, this is 2018. Yeah, very into 2018. And I'm like, dude, I can sell these books on my account. So I found out that I could sell books that nobody else could because I was selling textbooks when I was in college back in like 2014, 2015. So I had a grandfathered in account. And that was the start of restrictedinventory.com. So he was like, dude, you should sell these books for the whole community. And I was like, dumb idea, not gonna do it. And then ended up doing it. And everyone in the community at the time, restrictions were going crazy. Like in 2019, everybody was just getting restricted like left and right. So you'd send in, Amazon would let you send in a couple thousand books, and then you would get restricted in them. And then people would have all these books at Amazon and they didn't know what to do with them. So I said, hey, just send them to me. And so back to my systems mindset, I had the storage unit, bookstore, employees. I said, hey, just send them all to my employee's house. Send them all here. And we had thousands and thousands of books sent to her house. And I did 80,000 in sales that August at like a 25% margin. And that was fucking amazing. That was the most money I'd ever made up to that point. It's probably as much money as I made the previous year doing 80K in sales in 1 month. And I didn't pay anything for the books. I got all the books for free because I was selling them on a consignment basis. The reselling community sending me books, then I would sell them on consignment. And then I remember I was like, this is a pseudo business, not real. It's too easy. Like that's what my brain was telling me at the time. And so I still was focusing on building like a real book business. I wanted a bulk business. I wanted to get gaylords from different places around town. I didn't want to have like this fake social media business. Fuck that. I wanted like a real hard book business. I just ignored the whole restricted inventory content, whatever, you know, and kept trying to build like a real book business. But then eventually I talked to David Chung, one of my best friends now, and he was on the phone with me. He's like, dude, he's like, you have something really special. This restrictedinventory.com thing is like, this is good. And that's the first time I had someone like really validate the idea for me that this was going to be good. And then that's when I was like, okay, maybe this whole thrifting thing and bulk book thing, it works for other people. Like to this day, I know people who are making like $1 million profit a year doing bulk books, like fucking crazy. So I knew there was potential there. There's some people that don't make any money doing it. But I was like, okay, maybe this is my path. And so that's when I really took responsibility, like, okay, let me systematize this whole business. I've already systematized the listing, repricing, all that's systematized. Now let me systematize getting these books in. So then I made a website, restrictedinventory.com, and I built this whole, it started out, it was a type form. So you would just put in your information and how many books you had. You'd put your address, blah, blah, blah. We'd send you a label. You'd put how many pounds of books you'd have, and you just send us your books. It was very like unofficial. And then eventually, like, I was listening to Val Ravikant. He's talking about you need to make software, this and that. So I'm like, let me make software for my book business. And so I made we spent probably 20 grand on development, which was a ton of money for me back then. Like all my money on developing this software, restrictedinventory.com. And that allowed users to scan in their books, tell them if it was profitable or not. We made a mobile app. And so I'm really thinking like, this is my way that I'm going to build wealth, is this restricted inventory.com business. And it made me a lot of money. My best year was 2021, and it made me like multiple six figures. And I'm like, okay, this is good. And so then I felt like I did the whole Michael Gerber, the E-Myth thing. I completely systematized the business. I could literally go do whatever. And every day I would check restrictedinventory.com. I had a back-end access, and I would see people are sending me like $1,000 in books. Like one person sent me $1,300 in books. This person sent me $50, and I knew I was going to get half of that. And so I really systematized this whole business, and then I started doing other stuff. Started working on retail arbitrage. I was doing chlorine. I was doing other things, but this book business was completely systematized. But the problem with it, and we'll get into like the lessons I learned, was I was selling these books. Like, why are all these books restricted? Why am I able to sell these books but nobody else is? And the reason why I was able to sell these books and nobody else is, again, I had the grandfathered in account. I was selling these books from 2014, 2015, 2016. But what my naive brain, I did consider this, by the way, but I was so damn optimistic and I was so naive that I had not been hurt by the world yet financially or just like in business. And of course, everything's going to be fine. I didn't think anything bad was going to happen, but the truth is, the reason why I could sell all the books but nobody else could, the reason why no one else could sell the books is because these are commonly counterfeited textbooks. So if everybody else is able to sell them and then they get restricted. Like all these people were able to sell them. They send books to Amazon. They get restricted, and then they send them to me. What's making my account special? Isn't that going to happen to me eventually too? And it did happen to me. It happened to me like within 2.5 months of launching, really scaling the business. It happened to me. I think it was like October of 2019. I had an account shut down. So we all know there's a law firm out there that test buys textbooks, and they test bought a few copies of textbooks from me, found out they were fake. They said, hey, they told Amazon that I sold, I think it was just, back then they didn't even do a counterfeit claim. It was something different, I think. I think it was just, I forget, maybe just an IP complaint. And then they started doing counterfeit claims years later. I think, I can't remember the exact details. I could go look. But that got my account suspended, and then I was like, okay, this is a wrap. But then one of my good friends was like, hey, I can sell textbooks. And I'm like, bet, we'll just sell them on your account. Dumb, kind of. We'll get into like the nuances of this, because there's a lot of business lessons here. A lot of business lessons. If there's a will, there's a way, you know. But at the same time, don't you think it's going to happen again, Avery? You're going to sell all these books on a new account. Why is it not going to happen this second time? So actually, for whatever reason, the other account was good for a long time. So we started running the business on his account, and that's when 2020, pretty decent year, 2020. That's when I really was posting on social media. So that also helped build a lot of the user base for restricted inventory. And then 2021, I believe, was our best year. 2020 was pretty damn good too. And then in 2022, it's at jiu-jitsu practice. I head through this kid. My rib never got back in place. My rib popped in. I was in the hospital. My wrestling coach died. And then I opened up my friend's Amazon account, and I found out his account was shut down too. One of the worst days of my life, just sitting there, finding out that, oh, yeah, it happened again. But I knew it was going to happen. Like, I knew it was going to happen. But so I had 2 accounts back lined up. I had 2 other people that I convinced, hey, let me sell on your account too. And so I had those ready to go. And then that summer, both of those got shut down too. So they were really doing a lot of test buys to kick people off. And then that's when I finally partnered with Michael, the guy from years before, and this is where we get into the business lessons. I guess we can start diving into this. He had an account that could sell textbooks, but he had already settled with the law firm, and Amazon knew about the deal. So like the 2 components that kept screwing me over, which were test buys from the law firm and Amazon shutting my account down, he was cool with both of them. He settled with them and came up with an agreement, and they trusted him to vet counterfeit books properly in his warehouse. So I partnered with him, and that's how restrictedinventory.com is currently still, even though I've sold it, it's still around. That's currently how all the books are being sold, is they're being sent on this one account that Amazon trusts and the law firm trust, and everything is everything's good. So but the first lesson I had, and we're getting kind of in the weeds here, this is going to be an interesting video, and these are just lessons that I learned personally, and they're not necessarily truths, but certainly I wish someone would have kind of broken this stuff down for me years ago. And I'm choosing to take these lessons and learn from them. And this is my interpretation. I'm not saying this is the truth, but these are lessons I learned, okay? So lesson number 1 is never split the difference. There's actually a book written on this. Great book by Chris something, I think. You can likely get a way better deal than you think on many things. So when I talk about him settling with the law firm, I also settled with the law firm, but there was 2 very different outcomes. He settled with the law firm and got an ungated Amazon textbook account for life, which is a great deal. And in my head, this whole setup he had with having that ungated account for life was like so much work, and I'm sure it is a lot of work, but like, more importantly, I was like, he must have paid so much money to that law firm. Turns out he paid less than me. So I also settled with the law firm in an attempt to get my Amazon account back in 2023. I was like, okay, I'll pay the law firm, they'll give me my account back, and I won't be able to sell textbooks, but I'll be able to sell on Amazon. And so I paid like triple what he paid. And his bankroll is definitely bigger than mine. And when I found that out, I just found like a fucking idiot, you know, because perception of what it would cost to get this ungated account that can sell textbooks for life versus what it actually is. Because once you settle with this law firm, you have the option to work with them and prove to them that you have good systems in your business in order to check for counterfeit books. But I knew I didn't want to go that route because in 2023, I had already committed to GoToLister, and that's my next business venture. I'd already mentally committed. So when I'm talking with the law firm, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay this settlement fee, which ended up being more than the settlement fee my partner paid, and I'm not going to try and get an ungated account anymore. Why didn't I want an ungated account? Because I'd have to come back to Nashville, which I'm back here now, but I'd need to get a warehouse. I would need to have like a place to show Amazon and the law firm that, hey, this is where I'm processing all my books. This is my in-house team. These are the systems we have in place. We're pulling this many counterfeits a week, blah, blah, blah. And I just did not want to go that route. I thought maybe I'd be traveling for the next 5 years, which I do plan on traveling again soon, but I have wrestling season coming up. Next year I'll get a lot of travel in, but I wasn't sure if I'd even be in the States. I was living in Colombia, learning Spanish, Barcelona. Like, my vision was to have a business that could operate without me being there. And the idea of a warehouse kind of freaked me out. So I never decided to do that. But I guess my lesson I learned there was, wow, I was such an idiot. Because even on the phone, the lady's like, I can talk them down more, I can talk them down more. Like, how stupid was I to accept paying this law firm an asinine amount of money? Like, how stupid. She was like, literally, like, I can call them back and give them a counter offer. I'm like, no, I was so happy, and I wanted my Amazon account back so bad because I was selling really good product. I know I can make that much money in a few days or a few weeks if I got my account back. I was like, just give me my account back now. Like, I was doing wholesale products on my account. I'm like, just give it back. I want to make the money. And I should have let her talk down the price. I could have had her talk the price down to like 10% of what it was, probably, but chose not to. So dumb decision. Never split the difference. Number one. Lesson number one. Lesson number two. People copy good ideas. And it's not the end of the world. It validates the idea was good. And it shows there's a market for it. You know, so this has happened to me when I launched RestrictedInventory.com. There was GatedInventory.com, West Coast reseller, I mean, Gated Inventory, or whatever their name is, East Coast, West Coast, something. And then Reezy Resells made Reezy.biz, and that was his consignment business. And then like a lot of big social media names were like popping out, like AMZ Consignment, I think that one might still exist. They did a 60-40 split, and I'm like, crap, I'm doing a 50-50 split, and this company just came in and did a 60-40 split. Reezy came in and gave like a 51-49 split, and in my head I'm just like, oh, are you fucking kidding me? Like, we're having competition now. And there was a couple, I think there was 4 total copycats that popped up, and it did kind of mess with me, but I was like, whatever. And business still did good, and we were the best, and we still are the best, or they are still the best now that I sold the business. But yeah, it's not the end of the world. And it validates it's a good idea. And that actually happened to me with GoToLister as well. My friends kept it a secret from me that they're making a competitive software against me, and boom, next thing I know, there's a whole nother listing software out there. Again, not the end of the world. Business is business. Like, there's going to be competition, but emotionally it can hit you in the moment, like, fuck, like, other people are doing shit. But at the end of the day, it's a positive sum game, and it validates your ideas. We're good, you know, so it's a good thing. And even now, let's see. Yeah, I guess I'll talk a little bit about where do I want to tie that part in? I guess we'll just skip that part. Don't need to put that part out there. Okay, yeah. No, actually, we're going to talk about it right now. Make hay when the sun shines. So when things are going good in your business, especially like on the sourcing side or like receiving inventory, or if you're on social media, views, whatever's working, like make hay while the sun shines. And what was working in 2019 was there was so many people recommending me in the Facebook group, so many testimonials. Hey, I have restricted books, what do I do with them? 5 people commenting, restrictedinventory.com, restrictedinventory.com. So I really took advantage of that by like always being active in the Facebook groups, liking posts, liking it when people would comment, restrictedinventory.com, encouraging this behavior, you know, really communicating and talking with the community as much as possible. And so make hay while the sun shines is my point. So when things are going good, continue to work on those things. And then this is a lesson, like I really mean it when I say this, like make hay while the sun. I'm trying to get better at this. Like as I'm growing GoToLister, one of the struggles I have is like getting affiliates on board, and every once in a while someone will come along and they'll want to promote GoToLister like really hard. And I'll be busy doing my business stuff, running my Amazon business, whatever. And then like, that's the fucking game right there. Like they want to promote GoToLister. Why the fuck are you making a PO for your wholesale business? Get the fuck out from over there and give this person 100% of your attention until they promote GoToLister. And that's a mistake I've made with GoToLister, but with restricted inventory, I made a similar mistake years ago. And I guess in every business, like there's gonna be this mistake you can make, which is when there's an opportunity for like a relationship or a source or something, don't just think it's going to be there forever, because it's going to disappear eventually. And I had such a good opportunity in restrictedinventory.com a few years ago to integrate with this bulk book selling listing software, and I didn't. And they were texting me, hey, are we going to get this up? Hey, we're going to get this up. And I'm like, oh, I'm busy doing my business shit. Busy doing my business shit. That is the business shit. That's the shit you go after right there. I should have fucking known. I should have done everything. I should have made communication clear. I should have capitalized on it. I should have gotten integrated with this listing software for bulk sellers, because the volume they could have brought me is millions of dollars of textbooks. And I dropped the ball on that. I didn't take advantage of that. And that's a big regret of mine. And then fast forward 2 years after my failed negotiation with them, and my partner with restrictedinventory.com, who has got the account, actually ended up taking advantage of that deal. And again, no hard feelings. Love the guy, but like he has the account and he's got the processes, he's got the accounts to sell textbooks is what I mean. And he's got the processes and systems in place to handle it. So he ended up integrating with that listing software. And I'm just like, fuck. How did that happen? How did I get squeezed out of that deal? And I got squeezed out of the deal. And this is like a pseudo business lesson. This isn't one of the 5 lessons, but the sales channel, like the outlet where the money comes in, whether it's an Amazon account, whether it's like a Stripe account, whether it's like if you're the one collecting the money and you're the one that's able to sell the thing, you have a lot of power. And so once all my Amazon accounts were shut down, I no longer had that power, and because I couldn't sell textbooks anymore. And that's why I had to partner with that one guy, and he actually took the majority, 70% of the profit for restrictedinventory.com over the last couple of years. So a big lesson there is like, if you have the sales channel, like you have so much leverage. And since I didn't have the sales channel anymore it would have been hard for me to even get that software deal where with that listing software, users would send restricted inventory to us because he had the account, you know, even though I had the website and everything. So that was another lesson there. Perception is reality. How professional you come across, and maybe professional is a bad word for it, because I think some of you guys might take this as the wrong way. It's not about like it is about the professional look and feel, but testimonials are always way, 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 way better than a professional look and feel. What I mean by that is like you can have 2 consignment book websites. You can have restrictedinventory.com, restrictedinventory.com. One can just have a bunch of testimonials from all the booksellers in the community talking about how much money they've made with the service, how how our payments are on time, blah, blah, blah. And the other website, and it could be a shitty website, like not great design, whatever. And then you can have another website, restrictedinventory.com, beautiful layout, professional website, voiceover, like professional. I paid a voice actor like $200 to do a video on restrictedinventory.com. Beautiful website, blah, blah, blah. But if you don't have those testimonials, not nearly as valuable as this website. So perception is reality. And so ideally you have both. You have a professional looking website or social media brand or whatever, the way you present yourself. This goes for everything in business. Perception is reality. And testimonials are the way to shift people's perceptions the fastest. So I just had this plethora of testimony. Actually, I do this with my other businesses better than I did with restricted inventory, but I did have like a few. If you go to you can see there's one really powerful testimonial on the website right now, but I could have done a lot better job of that, honestly. But perception is reality, and how professional you come across is going to really affect everything in business. Like even like, probably the biggest thing I get out of Miami Sellers Conference is the reputation I have in the community now, and the ability just to do deals and ask questions with like the top players in the game, because their perception of me is this person who's able to put together this huge event and like make it great every year. And like the perception's also, I'm super connected with the community, so it gives me status, you know, so that's it's a hack there. But perception's reality, so remember that. And the last one, and I'll kind of rant a little bit on this one, is because it's debatable if I made the right choice or right choices or not over the year. I'm not upset with any choices I made. I'm happy with the path I'm on. Go-to lister is my focus, and I think that is like the biggest thing I can work on. I think it's the biggest project I could deliver on. But the point is, my lesson learned is don't build a castle on sand. At Miami 2023, I gave this talk about don't build a castle on sand, and why me building restricted inventory was ultimately a bad decision, because I'm selling these commonly counterfeited textbooks on one account. So eventually, like, I'm building this beautiful thing, but eventually it's going to all go away when all my accounts get shut down. So that's why I put, or was it sandy? So I'm building a castle on sand, but was it really sandy? Because from one perspective, I could have settled with the law firm, and I could have came back to the United States. I could have put my nose to the grindstone. I could have gotten a warehouse. I could have integrated with that software. I could have integrated with other softwares where all the listing softwares out there would have a restrictedinventory.com offer. And I could have really built this thing to like 10 million plus, probably at least 5 million. And I could have had an account, my own account could have sold textbooks if I would have settled with the law firm properly. And so that's why I say, was it really sandy? But even then, you know, you're still dealing with a ruthless industry, and you never know what's going to happen with textbooks. So that's kind of why I am happy that I did what I did. But you'd have to consider risk reward too. And it being a ruthless industry, I decided, hey, I'm going to take my efforts and put them into this software, because I have the social media presence. I've sold books on Amazon for years. I know how to make the best listing software. I've sold other products. I know how to make the best software, period, for all sellers. That is going to be my focus. And so I decided to not go the book route, even though I probably passed up on a ton of money. And yeah, those are the 5 lessons I learned. So hopefully that video was good. Drop a like button if you like videos like this, and be sure to hit the subscribe button. Bye guys.